Okay, Erev Tov everybody, we're continuing Mitzvah Lamed, Mitzvah number 30. Yesterday, the Chinuch explained how an oath binds a person to fulfill his words. Today he's going to turn to another binding declaration, which is a neder. A neder is a vow that a person makes to prohibit an item to himself. And then he'll go on to talk about the differences between the two. Again, this is all part of Mitzvah Lamed, Shelo lishava lashav, not to swear in vain. Again, there is a specific mitzvah of breaking a vow. That's way on the mitzvah number 407. Okay, but he uses this opportunity to address as well this. Ubinyan neder derech acheret yeshbo. As for the neder, there's a different approach to it. Shehu kemachnis davar hamutar begeder ha'asur, because what it does is he places a permissible object into the realm of prohibited. So when a person makes a neder, I'm not going to eat meat anymore, let's say, right? And then I'm not going to eat meat. You took something that is allowed, and now you made it not allowed. That's what he did with a neder. Uchilu yomar, as if he says, davar ploni shehu mutar, ye asur alav ke korban, she'asar Hashem yiparach. So-and-so object, which is permitted, is like, I'm making it like a korban that is prohibited to Hashem. The rabbis in Gemara tells us that only when a person vows by associating the object with something vowed, that is a subject of a previous neder, does a new neder take effect. Does not take effect through any other matter. So if a person says this meat is forbidden to me like a korban, bazeh yachula neder. Therein the neder takes effect. Avalim yomar kibsar chazir. If he says that this meat is forbidden to me like pork, okay, and therefore he didn't use the term vow, something that wasn't vowed, and plus pork is inherently forbidden. It's already not allowed to eat pork. Then enze neder. That's not a valid neder. Shatorah amra ki yidor neder. If a man vows a neder, kilomar ki yidor bedavar anidar, something by associating something with through a vow that makes it prohibited, like a korban.
Even if a guy is not religious and he used to eat pig, and then he says that I'm not going to eat any more pig.
No, that's not wrong. That's not what we're saying here, right? That he should do, right? He doesn't want to eat pig. We're saying I want to have this. I'm going to treat this kosher steak like pig. And I'm not going to eat it. That, he can do whatever he wants. No one's forcing him to eat meat. But that's not considered a neder. It's not considered a vow. But if he says, this kosher meat I'm treating like a korban, that is lashon of a neder. Someone who forbids an object upon his fellow or himself through a neder. Keinyan zehu. Alright, then he is affecting a prohibition in this matter. Shehu ki'ilu omer, davar ploni ye asur alav al chavero kemo advarim shekoban she'asa lanu Hashem yiparach. That such and such object is forbidden upon him or upon this fellow. V'zeh ha'inyan sheyesh banu koach le'esor hamutar. This concept that human beings have the ability to prohibit something that is allowed, lefi she'atorah limatan mekach, exists because the Torah tells us. Shneimar, if a person vows a neder to establish a prohibition upon himself, he shall not desecrate his word. This is very similar to consecrating an object to the Bet HaMikdash, which we call hekdesh. We find in Torah a person has the power to consecrate something just through his mouth. And that object becomes immediately prohibited to him forever. Because it belongs to Hekdesh, Kedichtiv, V'ish ki yaktish beto kodesh. Ukmochen, yesh lo koach al atzmo le'asod devarim al gufo. And certainly I have the ability, the power to forbid things upon over my own body. So actually, we this is a very big halacha in the night of the Seder I always remind people that when you get to the paragraph of Pesach Matzah Umaror, you're not supposed to lift up the shank. It's asur to lift up the shank. Don't lift it up. Don't even point to it. Because by doing so, you would be declaring that bone or that meat is Pesach. And now because your verbalization of that now requires you to keep that meat, that bone, until Mashiach comes. So you have to bring as a korban Pesach. Okay, but that's different. You're not saying the maror is a korban. The Pesach, it's zecher lefe, right? The bone is just as a remembrance. But by pointing it and saying Pesach zeh, that means you're addressing that. You're making maror zeh is different. Maror zeh is not a korban. Matzah is not a korban. So yes, you lift up the maror, you lift up the matzah. That's not a problem. But you can't take this meat and say Pesach zeh. That means you're saying Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach, now you gotta keep it in your freezer till Mashiach comes. Wow. And you gotta bring it. So you can actually be makdish something. That applies, by the way, in everything. If I want to be makdish a water bottle, I can say this for the Bet HaMikdash. Then you gotta keep that water bottle, the Bet HaMikdash. The person has that ability from this person.
When you say Pesach?
You don't. You just look. Stare. You stare at it. You have to, that's why you have the Bala said there, okay, you have to explain. Before you get to these, first of all, we know that those are very important paragraphs, right? Whoever doesn't say these three things on Pesach, that's what Rabban Gamliel says in the Agadah. So saying those three paragraphs is extremely important. And the Baal Agadah, who should be, who's leading the Seder and all the people around, needs to preface this and says, okay, we're about to say these three paragraphs. Okay, we are not going to point at the bone. Okay, we're going to look at it, but we're not going to point. And when we get to the Matzah Maror, we're going to lift it up. Right? And you look at any Haggadah, it'll tell you exactly that. Do not point at the Pesach. Do not lift up the shank bone. Okay? Because you don't want to consecrate it.
Can you not say this is not the carbon basis? This is very
no.
Not saying that?
But what are you saying in the paragraph? You're saying Pesach Zeh.
Yeah,
right?
The paragraph, but then you say what I'm lifting up now is not the paragraph. It's not.
Okay, so you want to lift it up and say this is a shank bone that I bought from Sobeys? Okay, what is it? You could say that. That's nothing wrong with that. But when you get to that paragraph, don't lift it up. Don't lift it up. Let's just finish the paragraph. This is the intent of the language that the Chachamim always use for nedarim. Hare alai, okay, meaning it's forbidden upon me, or pi ledibur, let my mouth prohibit this. So the Chachamim speak of an object, it or my mouth, as the focus of the neder. Kelomar shehu marchik oto davar mimenu. By making a neder, I'm distancing myself from this item. Ve'koach yesho likshor atmo be'isur oto davar, and one has the power to bind himself or another to the prohibition that he brings to bear on that thing. Just so you have the control over your own property to make it forbidden if you want to declare one of your properties a hekdesh. B'ezrat Hashem, next time, not here tomorrow, but next time we'll compare the difference between an oath and a neder and see the differences between the two. Okay, Hazar Baruch.